buddy. You taking it out? Welcome back to Duluth Junction Workshop. In the last episode, I pulled this thing into the garage. I didn't really tell you what was going to go on, but here's the deal. I bought some snow tires for this thing before LSPR, and I got to use them on the gravel and the pavement. There's a winter road rally coming up down in Winona, and I would like to use the snow tires on the snow. My dad and I have been a TSD rally team for about 5 rallies now, and out of those 5, only one of them has been in my car, and that was Boo Radley, the F100. Unfortunately, my cars have not been ready for the other ones. We actually did get in the SCCA magazine for driving the truck on the US Road Rally Challenge in August, which was pretty hilarious, but we got dead last and maxed most of the stages. I have a whole list of things to take care of before I drive this thing on 200 miles of rallying, plus the commute to and from Winona, which is a couple hours away. One of the wheel bearings started squeaking after I got back from LSPR, so I gotta go through 3 of the wheel bearings, the ones I didn't do, and get those all lubed up. The heater works, but these blow cold air in, so we have to fix the ducting to make sure that these can blow hot air. The car is leaking coolant all over, so I bought a new water pump to install. Well, I have fluid coming out where I don't want it. I also don't have fluid coming out where I do want it. So I have some windshield washers coming on the way from Oregon. We're gonna make this thing be able to spray the windshield and keep that clean. I've got to raise this exhaust so it doesn't scrape the ground. The high beams also don't work, and even when they do work, there's not much light coming out. So I ordered 2 replica Sibi Oscars to mount up here as spot lamps. Last but certainly not least, I need to keep this thing from getting rusty. And in Minnesota, they put a lot of road salt down. The road salt corrodes old cars, especially like this, very quickly. So I'm going to oil coat the bottom of the chassis as a protectant for that one day that it's in the salt. Let's start with the rear wheel bearing. This is also a great time to check the condition of your rear brakes. You can see I have great material on my shoes here, and the wheel cylinder has a little bit of a crack in the boot, and I think that could stand to be replaced in the near future. We want to remove this inner seal here, and I did get some new seals off of Rock Auto, but I'm not sure that they're going to fit perfectly, so I don't want to damage this one. I'm going to try to be really gentle with it and grab it out, but oh man, it's really in there, isn't it? All right, getting our first look at the grease, so-called grease that was so-called lubricating that bearing. We have the bearing here, then we have a spacer, and on the other side we have the other bearing. So let's pop this other bearing out. We have a little piece, an area to tap this into, so I'm going to go in from the top just gently. Bearing's starting to come out. Let's pop this onto the vise. Spacer looks like that. The big end is toward the inner, small end is toward the outer. And that's the grease that was inside it. It's almost like hot caramel. Huh. Here you can see the ridge that the inner bearing goes up against, and then on the outside, actually, you know what? Yeah, if you're doing this, try driving them out from the outside toward the in, and you should be able to drive both out at once. So learn from me. Took a little effort, but I got these cleaned up. This one rolls pretty smooth. I got almost all the crap out of it. This one rolls pretty smooth too. It looks like I may have nicked one of the cages, but it seems like it's okay. There's no play in either of them, so I'm gonna lube them back up and put them in. And just for reference, none of these are correct rear wheel seals for a Sonett. I got these off of Rock Auto, and I'm not too surprised that they are wrong. I found this random plumbing fitting, and thankfully someone's wrote on it V4 rear wheel bearing, so I think I should use that. This darn thing just keeps being useful. I can't help it. torque that up to 65. There we go. To do the front, we have to take the clamshell off, so how do people do that? I don't know. I think I did it wrong. And you'll see what happens when you do that editing trick wrong. Yeah, your whole front end kind of falls off. So I wanted to start doing this wheel bearing and get this passenger one under control so I could give you a more concise version for the one that's actually squeaking. I ran into a couple snags. The wheel seals that I ordered are not the correct size. Well, the grease is about to be expected. And then I can't get this huge nut off the knuckle. We're gonna take a break on this. I got some emails out to smart people, and we'll start on the water pump over here. So let us drain the coolant out and get that started. The used coolant in my bucket of used coolant looks better than the coolant that just came out of the car. So it'd be good to replace that. All right, get back over there. One alternator out of here, 490 watt. And that allows us to add up all the stuff that we're doing with this thing, add up all the driving lights, and make sure that that is gonna be a comfortable safety margin. I believe that was the stock output, so we should be okay. Now we got to take the bracket off in here. As a friendly reminder, Saab used SAE bolts and Ford of Germany used metric. So the engine is metric. So here's our water pump, and from this seam back is part of the engine. Here's our back cover, here's our engine, and here's our water pump. So you're supposed to loosen the bolts in the back, don't pull them all the way out, and then pull the front of the water pump off. That includes the impeller, and then you can just replace that part and not worry about the back. Hi.
Howdy. Let's see if we can get this heater fixed up. For some reason there's a damper that lets in outside air all the time, and hopefully we can pull the cover off here and figure out what's going on. It's really cold in the winter though.
It was cold when it was 40 degrees out.
Right.
So, and this is really rusty too, so we're gonna see if we can sandblast and paint this while it's out. Keep it a little more protected in there. So this is a top piece here. The front piece comes off as well, and then in there is the blower motor. And
here's the screws are all coming out. Good.
He's able to pull this hose off by pulling the entire hard line off the back of the engine. So that's to the side a little bit. Oh, this is playing with fire here. Oh yeah. Haha.
Oh.
Woo, buddy. You taking it out? Wow. We were blowing that into the car, weren't we?
Hip.
Holy crap. Yeah, we'll have to get a vacuum on there. Hey, you want to try to catch some mice?
Maybe that's why it wasn't heating very well. What do you think?
What we found out is that heater core is a dual layer thing. The upper layer goes into these two holes, and they go to the dash vents on the very corners, the ones that we're getting cold air into. And then the lower part of the heater core goes to 2 separate ducts up to the defrost. And the defrost is working properly. We're just getting cold air out the sides. So we have an issue with the upper one. You want to paint this or something? I don't know why you do that.
Clean it. When the road speed exceeds 30 miles per hour, the speed wind is usually sufficient to ensure satisfactory function of the heating system. Consequently, it is only necessary to use the fan when the car is being driven at a relatively low speed.
Get her apart. Can you smell that on camera?
Oh my god.
Woo. These rat bastards at Ford. We have the new water pump here so I can show you. We have 5 bolt holes here. This is blocked completely by the motor mount right here behind the hose. So I'm not sure how I'm going to get that out, but it's going to involve a lot of swearing.
Here, hold it up there. I'll push it on with a screwdriver. Twist it a little bit. Okay, drop it down a little bit. Can you pull it to the back of the engine and drop it down a little bit? About another 1/4 inch. Close. Okay, now pull it towards you. There, she's on.
Oh, can you keep your wrench on that?
Yep.
Okay, because I can't even hold it. I just got to go like this. Well, there it is, folks. I guess we can pop the water pump off now. I said. Good thing I got that out. It's pretty nasty looking. I don't think the bearing was bad or anything. Feels like the seal might have been a little crusty, but this cannot have been doing that great of a job. The impeller is super gross. I decided as long as I have everything off, I may as well take everything off this thing, get it all cleaned up. So this piece has actually got a little bit of rusty crap on it. This one coming off the back end is also got some cleaning up to do. Then I took the lower rad hose off. I actually put this on probably less than a year ago. And as a reminder, you can put this on with the clamshell on the car and everything installed. It's just a big pain in the butt and it takes half an hour. So let's go get all this cleaned up and we'll come back to throw the new water pump in. Here we go. We got right stuff around here. I've seen a lot of shops use this and figured I'd give it a try myself. Supposed to get all this in within 5 minutes, so I'm hoping I can get everything lined up right. Got new zinc plated bolts because the water pump is aluminum. Call this a nut and bolt restoration because we're doing it one nut and bolt at a time. We got suspected lead dust in here.
Maybe.
What are you doing?
Well, these are the covers for the heater box. And I think it's pretty rusty underneath. The paint's pretty loose. So I'm just trying to get off most of the rust, then we'll do a rust fix and then paint it.
Patina!
While Tyler was working on the engine, the water pump, I've been working on the heater. So we had pulled this heater core out, and as you remember, there was a huge mouse nest on top, so that got soaked and cleaned up pretty good. So it does have some nasty water in it, so we're gonna flush the system, I think, before we move on with that. The fan blower box actually had some mouse droppings inside, and so that was pretty rusty, so got all the paint ground off and the rust ground off, and then put some rust fix on it, and now we're gonna paint it.
Do you think that was good for us to breathe while driving up to LSPR?
Yeah, exactly. And then got the blades on the impeller fan all cleaned up and ready to put back in. Tomorrow we should be able to get this all painted up.
And this is the nice warpy one that I tried to repair with welding and didn't do a very good job yet at. But we got it rust fixed and it's going to go back on.
We'll put some seam sealer on the holes. It'll be just fine. So we also got everything cleaned up in here. There was a couple of rust spots here and here that we got cleaned up and put some rust fix on. So we'll get those painted and then put some seam sealer on top of them.
So this down here, this is the foot vent, right?
Yep.
This one is the the dash vents are these, and this is the defrost.
Yep.
So this one was working. This one may have worked, and these ones were not. But they all should be flowing right through that heater core now.
Correct.
So these are kind of like gutters.
Yeah, so the air comes on top of this box and then goes down over in there. Yeah, so any water that gets in there is going to go down here and out.
So this is essentially a big gutter inside. Can you pull this up real quick? Underneath this blower shroud, this is a huge gutter inside the car that drips straight out the side. And it's not really a angle or anything, so it almost wants to pool water right here where it rusts. I don't know why it's rusting in that corner, but I guess we'll never know. These bastards had a flex hose on it from the factory. That's a factory part. Gates was not lying. What the hell? Can I just say, if Ford of Germany was not smoking crack when they designed this engine, they could have had you remove the radiator and then had all those bolts come out the front of the car. And it would have been so much easier than going in the back for everything. And just drives me nuts. If you really want to keep the engine in the car, then pull the lower rad house out before you do the water pump. But honestly, it kind of helps to pull the radiator at that point. If you're going to pull the radiator and the lower rad hose and all the stuff above it, then why not just pull the whole engine out and do other maintenance? It's so weird. It's almost very close to an engine out service to get this water pump done. Well, I got everything installed on the water pump, and I got everything, alternator and everything on. I think it has about 12 hose clamps around the water pump because all the water passages are run around the engine block, not through the block itself. Anyway, so we got everything buttoned up here a little bit, new belt, and it's ready to put the clamshell back on, but we're not gonna fasten it down yet. I got some stuff that I want to fit to this car, and it's pretty exciting. Some of the stages in the rally we're going to do are at night, and I want to be able to see where we're going. I got some reproduction Sibby Oscar long-range driving lamps, and I'm super excited about them. They were a lot cheaper than original driving lamps of any style. I even looked up the Saab Sport and Rally catalog and saw what they used, and the Hellas and stuff that they were using and Bosch lights were, I mean, $600 at minimum. So these are half that at my door. So I'm thinking I want to put a couple simple steel straps coming out of here and here, and I can mount these straight up on those real close together. That will keep it open so I can put some cornering or fog lamps in these holes eventually, and those will point out to the sides, illuminate the ditches, and we'll have a full lighting situation here. So let's get this bracket figured out, and once we get these mounted up, we can start to look at how the wiring is going to mount up there. Oof, I love that.
So I'm trying to figure out why the bright doesn't work, and I've got a good ground here, and when I touch it here, it goes brights on, brights off, brights on, brights off. And if I touch it on this side and then work the lever, it works. But if I put the ground here, it doesn't work. So there's something between this bar not grounding to the body properly.
I've been doing my level best to try to measure all this and where the radiator is and everything to make sure that I can build a bracket behind the grill that actually holds these lights in and that doesn't interfere with the fiberglass. So if this were a normal car, I'd probably mount something in with the bumper brackets or something in with the front sheet metal, but this is all fiberglass and I can move it with my hand. So we're not going to be mounting anything to that. We're going to mount it to the radiator support. So this is the side view of our front end. The radiator is approximate, but I got my measurements into the back, and then I made a plan via drawing as well with kind of where everything goes. And the very convenient thing here is that when I'm trying to figure out how far out stuff can come from the radiator, I noticed that Saab actually has these headlight cans for the in-grill auxiliary lights, and if you take a straight edge, you can go right across the whole thing. So it's a very nice surface to work off of as far as clearancing everything. And I can make sure that I can clearance that properly. Anyway, I'll show you that when we get it all done, but need to buy some steel and we'll get that together. All right, what did you do?
I just put an extension wire off the wire from the switch, and then I hooked up a ground switch, so now we just need to get a momentary switch to put in here somewhere, and we can wire these wires in. And so
Or I could just give those to my Navy on the road.
So while Tyler's been figuring out his frame for his auxiliary lights on the front of the car, I've been working on the wiring to make sure that when we wire them up, everything's going to work. First thing we found out is the two switches inside have broken tabs on them, so that's going to be a problem for us. So there's supposed to be tabs here that snap together.
So if anyone has a set of those that they want to get rid of, let me know.
All right, so that's the first problem. But even pulling the switches out, we couldn't get any power to the front of the car. The car's already set up with wiring for auxiliary lights down here. So we just put the tester in there, and
So just the last pin is missing, right? So we just have to install one pin.
Yep.
And then we have the relays.
We have an auxiliary light relay right here that runs off the lighting relay, so when the brights...
Headlight relay.
Headlight relay. So when the brights are dimmed down, the auxiliary lights go off as well. We had no power to the auxiliary relay. Took the lighting relay off, headlight relay I should say, off, and tested it. And it is bad that the pin that drives the auxiliary light relay has no power to it. That's our whole problem here.
Otherwise, we do have this switch that came off the electric fuel pump that was on the car when I bought the car. And so that's something we can use for that. Got the auxiliary light bracket mounted up here, and it can move up and down at this point because it's only got 2 bolts. So I got these braces that are supposed to go down here, but I need to know what angle this is going to be at. So we're going to throw the front end on and we'll try it out. So originally I wanted the bar to come in like this and hit this arrow, but it looks like it hits a little bit lower. And that gives me enough room that I could probably try to flip this whole light bar, and then I would install the bolts from the bottom instead of the top, which would probably be easier anyway. Got my braces in there and they're tacked up, and then I made these 2 things, and these go under here and bolt in, and the lights come on out here. So we're gonna put the clamshell back on, I think for the, 3rd time? Do you want to explain what happened with the blower motor?
I don't know what happened to it. Took it out, it was working when we took it out, and now it's not working when we put it back in. It arcs at the brushes a little bit, so...
Well, hopefully this will whip it back into shape. And then you got the windshield washer pump working, right? It worked fine off the battery down there. And then you put it in the car, it worked once and then stopped and wouldn't work again.
Right.
Then you took it back out and there's a little kind of point contact switch thing that you cleaned up, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so those
Now
are
it
getting...
works on the battery and the car.
Well, that's good to know.
Now we found out the washer tank has a slit in it, so now we gotta fix that.
Where is that thing?
That's inside drying.
Oh. Okay, well, we'll get that going. You know, we gotta have washers for the winter. So you've been messing around for a few hours now.
Yes. I tried to get this apart, and I didn't have any luck. I bent these pins straight to see if I could slide all this out, and it wouldn't go. So I was able to get the brushes loose. Then I just spun this with my hand with a piece of sandpaper in there and shined that up. And then the brushes didn't seem to fit very well, so I took a sanding drum on the Dremel and just sanded those a little bit so they fit the diameter better. And I put some WD-40 on the top and bottom bearings. And
there's supposed to be a felt washer on the bearings, right? We found that.
Well, that's a different model. So
was the 96 was a different model than this, and also the Volvo Amazon and P1800 were supposed to be the same thing, but they use the same end plate and they seem the same, but they're not.
Right. So it worked a few minutes ago.
That's why I picked up the camera.
Really?
Just barely walk away and this thing's running now, so what'd you do different?
I don't know.
Thing's vibrating pretty heavy.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I basically spent the week coming home from work and taking a nap because I was completely wiped out, but we're back on the weekend and I have some new parts. The front wheel bearing seals from Ashcraft came in, and this is the whole instructions with them to pull that nut out. We also have some fuel line, small engine fuel line for the windshield washers. I got some rocker assembly parts from Germany and a brand new rocker shaft in a German newspaper. And yeah, so we're going to try to get these in today, at least on one side. My problem was that I was putting the big bar on and it would actually move my workbench instead of moving the nut. So we're gonna try to get this out.
She goes.
Is that it?
Yep.
Oh my god. Getting out the big flathead for this one. Woo, buddy.
Speeding.
Yeah, now we gotta press the bearing out now. SKF 233200. Well, my dad threw some paint on the bracket and it's now rain stick. So that's fun. We're gonna throw this on and get the lights mounted up and wired. This is kind of one piece and you just put it under here, throw the bolts through, and then it stays in place. The dumb part is that these stick out really far, and I'm sure you can tell it is nuts. I know you're over there asking, is the bracket strong? Is it gonna hold these lights up when we're out on the stage? Well, let's check it out. I think it's pretty strong. The question is whether it's gonna vibrate up and down and get our light pattern in where the place we want it. So the first test fit and everything, I'm pretty happy with it. This video is getting pretty long, so I'll have to cut it here, but join us next time in part 2 and press on.